It's finals week and I'm staring at my laptop screen watching the loading icons spin endlessly. No Wi-Fi connection. Just that infuriating circle mocking me while I have 3 exams to study for and papers due in 48 hours. And from the other room I hear laughter. Loud, clear laughter. And I realize my roommate Gemma is on a video call, her voice carrying through the thin walls as she chats with someone about plans for winter break, and something clicks in my brain. She has internet, she's connected, she's fine, which means this isn't a building-wide outage or a router problem. This is intentional. She shut me out first, and I sit there in my room feeling my stomach twist with anger and clarity. Because this isn't the first time she's done something like this, isn't the first lie or manipulation or casual betrayal. It's just the most blatant, the most perfectly timed to cause maximum damage. And I realize I'm done being the accommodating roommate. Done being understanding. Done letting her walk all over me while pretending we're friends. My name is Ren Calloway and I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And right now I'm a junior at a state university trying to survive college on a tight budget and even tighter nerves. I work part-time at the campus bookstore to cover rent and food. I take out loans for tuition. I budget every dollar. And I thought having a roommate would make things easier, split costs, shared responsibilities, built-in company. But I was wrong about all of that. I ended up here in this situation because I trusted the wrong person with my peace, trusted that friendship meant honesty, trusted that living together wouldn't change the dynamic we had. But it changed everything, turned someone I considered a friend into someone who saw me as an opportunity. And now I'm sitting in my room during the most stressful week of the semester with no internet access because my roommate decided to punish me for something I don't even understand. Gemma wasn't a stranger when we decided to room together. We'd been friends since freshman year, met in an intro psych class and bonded over shared complaints about the professor and similar taste in music. We'd study together sometimes, grab coffee, complain about dating in classes and life. And when we both needed housing for junior year it seemed obvious to find a place together. 2 other girls joined us, Fiona and Hollis, and we promised each other fairness and honesty and no drama, made jokes about being the mature apartment, the one without constant fights and passive aggression. We'd communicate, we'd respect boundaries, we'd be adults about shared living, and for maybe 3 weeks it worked. We divided chores and groceries and space. We were considerate. And then slowly Gemma started testing limits, started seeing what she could get away with, and I let her because I didn't want to be the uptight roommate, didn't want to start conflicts over small things, but small things became bigger things, and that promise of no drama became the biggest joke of all. The red flags started small, dishes piled in the sink for 3 days until someone else washed them, borrowed clothes that never got returned, my shampoo mysteriously empty after I'd just bought it, and always the same excuse from Gemma, "Oh sorry, I forgot," or "I'll get you back," or "I thought that was communal," and I'd let it go because confrontation felt worse than annoyance, because I wanted to keep the peace, because I told myself everyone has different cleanliness standards and maybe I was being too picky, but it wasn't about standards, it was about respect, or lack of it. She'd use my food without asking, leave messes in shared spaces, play music loud when I was studying, and every time I'd gently mention something she'd apologize so sweetly, promise to do better, and then nothing would change. "I'll pay you back" became her favorite sentence, said with such sincerity that I believed her at first, but the payback never came. Just more borrowing, more taking, more assuming my stuff was hers to use. Then came the kitten. Gemma showed up one day with this tiny orange tabby she'd found near campus, said she couldn't just leave it, said she'd take care of it, find it a home, just needed a few days, and I'm not heartless, so I said okay. But a few days became a week, became 2 weeks, and Gemma's care consisted of posting cute pictures on Instagram while I actually fed the thing, cleaned its litter box, played with it so it wouldn't destroy our furniture. She'd cuddle it when people were over, when there was an audience to witness how nurturing she was, but the actual work fell to me. And then one morning I woke up to find she'd moved the litter box directly outside my bedroom door, not in the bathroom where it had been, not in her room, but right where I'd smell it every time I opened my door. When I asked why, she said it was closer to the cat's food so it made more sense, but the food was in the kitchen. The box outside my room made no sense. It was just another test, another boundary pushed, another way of making her problem mine. The furniture scam happened in October. Gemma found this great deal on Craigslist, a couch and chair set for $400, said we should split it 4 ways, make the living room more comfortable. Everyone agreed it was a good idea, so we each put in $100. I transferred my share to her Venmo immediately. Fiona and Hollis did the same, and Gemma went to pick up the furniture, except when it arrived it went straight into her bedroom. The living room stuff didn't work out, but I found this amazing desk and storage unit, she explained, and somehow the $400 we'd all contributed became furniture only she used in her private space. And when I mentioned that wasn't what we'd agreed to, she acted confused. But you all said to buy furniture, she said. I bought furniture, and I couldn't argue without sounding petty, couldn't demand my money back without seeming unreasonable, so I just swallowed the loss and added it to the growing list of times Gemma had reinterpreted agreements to benefit herself. $200 gone. Furniture I never even sat on. And she acted like she'd done nothing wrong. Money kept disappearing in small ways that added up. Groceries I'd bought would vanish, toilet paper and paper towels I'd purchased would be gone in days. Cleaning supplies that should have lasted weeks were empty in one. And every time I tried to track shared expenses it seemed like I was paying more than my share. Gemma always had excuses, always had reasons why she couldn't contribute this week, why she'd pay me back next month, why her portion was actually less if you calculated it differently. She'd use language like technically and, if you think about it, to justify why 4 people splitting something equally somehow meant I paid 40%, and I'd question myself, wonder if I was being too rigid about money, if I was counting pennies like some kind of miser. But then I'd check my bank account and realize I was broke while she was posting about brunches and new clothes, and I understood she wasn't struggling. She just preferred spending her money on fun while spending mine on necessities. The internet bill announcement came in November. Gemma called a house meeting, which already felt weird, said she'd talk to the internet company and our bill would be $100 a month, $25 each, totally reasonable. I agreed, we all agreed, and I sent her my portion immediately like always, but something about her tone felt off, too casual, too quick to move past details, too eager for everyone to just pay without asking questions. I almost asked to see the bill but stopped myself because that felt accusatory, felt like I was calling her a liar, and I didn't want to be that person, didn't want to create tension over what was probably nothing. So I paid my $25 and tried to ignore the nagging feeling that something wasn't right, that I was being taken advantage of again, that my inability to confront was being exploited by someone who knew exactly how far she could push before I'd push back. The discovery happened by accident 3 weeks later. I was in Gemma's room borrowing back my stapler that had somehow migrated there, and I saw papers on her desk, bills and receipts scattered around, and right on top was our internet bill, $45. Not 100, 45. which meant Gemma had collected $100 from us and pocketed 55, which meant this wasn't a mistake or confusion about billing, this was deliberate theft, calculated exploitation of roommates who trusted her, and my stomach dropped, literally felt like falling, because this confirmed everything I'd been trying not to believe, that she was manipulating us, that every vague expense and missing item and creative math wasn't accidental. It was intentional. She'd been systematically taking advantage of people who cared about her, and I stood there holding that bill, feeling anger rise in my throat, feeling stupid for not demanding proof earlier, feeling betrayed by someone I'd considered a friend. I didn't confront her right away, didn't storm out waving the bill demanding explanations. I just put it back exactly where I found it and left her room quietly, went back to my own space and sat there processing, and instead of exploding I got cold, analytical, started watching and listening and calculating, started tracking every expense and request and borrowed item, started documenting the pattern I'd been willfully ignoring, and I realized this had been happening since we moved in. Probably longer, probably back when we were just friends and she'd borrow money for coffee and forget to pay back. I'd been funding her lifestyle for over a year without realizing it, and she'd been so good at it, so smooth with explanations, so skilled at making me feel unreasonable for questioning, that I'd let it happen, but I wasn't going to let it happen anymore. I was just trying to decide how to respond, how to protect myself without creating a living situation so toxic I'd have to move out. Finals week hit like a truck the way it always does. 3 exams in 4 days plus 2 major papers. Professors who'd been reasonable all semester suddenly demanding perfection. Stress levels through the roof for everyone in the apartment. Fiona practically living in the library, Hollis surviving on energy drinks and panic, me trying to maintain some structure, some routine, some illusion of control in chaos. And I needed stability, needed my living situation to be the one thing I didn't have to worry about, needed to focus on studying instead of drama, but instead I felt used in my own home, felt tension every time I saw Gemma, felt anger simmering under everything because I knew she'd stolen from me and I couldn't ignore it anymore, couldn't pretend it didn't matter, couldn't sacrifice my own well-being to keep peace, and I realized something had to give. I either had to confront her or find another way to establish boundaries, and confrontation during finals felt impossible, felt like starting a war I didn't have energy to fight. The solution came to me during a 3 a.m. study session when my brain was too fried to focus on economics. I could change the Wi-Fi password, just for my devices, set up a guest network with the old password that had bandwidth limits, give myself priority access while everyone else dealt with slower speeds. It was petty, definitely petty, but it was also perfectly justified. She'd stolen money from us, lied directly to our faces, and I was just evening the score. So I logged into the router settings, created the new network, connected my laptop and phone, and suddenly I had fast, reliable internet while everyone else was stuck with the basic connection. And for the first time in months I felt in control. Felt like I'd taken power back from someone who'd been wielding it against me. The peace that came with that decision was immediate. The guilt I expected didn't show up, just satisfaction. Just the calm certainty that I'd made the right choice. Gemma noticed by the second day, knocked on my door with this confused expression, all innocent concern. Hey, the internet's been super slow lately, like barely loading anything. Are you having problems too? And I matched her tone perfectly, just as innocent, just as concerned. Oh really? No, mine seems fine. Maybe it's your computer. and I watched her face process that, watched her try to figure out if I was being honest or if I knew something. It's not just me, she insisted. Fiona said hers is slow too, and I shrugged. Weird, maybe call the internet company, knowing she'd never call because they'd tell her the bill was $45 not $100, knowing she was trapped by her own lies. And she stood there for another minute trying to decide if she should push, if she should accuse me of something. But she couldn't accuse me without admitting she'd been monitoring internet usage, without revealing she suspected I'd changed something, so she just left. Frustrated, and I went back to studying, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. By the third day, Gemma had found a solution, or so she thought. I heard her on the phone telling someone how clever she was, how she'd found the neighbor's open Wi-Fi network and connected to it. Problem solved, no big deal, and she was bragging about it. Actually bragging about stealing bandwidth from our neighbor because she couldn't admit she was experiencing consequences for stealing from us. And something about that final display of entitlement pushed me over an edge I didn't know existed. She wasn't going to learn, wasn't going to change, wasn't going to connect her actions to results. She was just going to keep finding ways to cheat and steal and exploit. And I decided if she was going to escalate, then so was I. I wasn't going to let her win by finding loopholes. Wasn't going to let her escape accountability by being more shameless than I was willing to be firm. So I did something I normally wouldn't. Something that required confrontation, even if indirect. I went downstairs to our neighbor's apartment, an older grad student named Indigo who I'd talked to a few times, introduced myself properly and explained the situation, told her someone in our building was using her Wi-Fi without permission, probably slowing down her connection, showed her how to password protect her network, and she was grateful. Had no idea it was even possible for people to connect without her knowing. Changed the settings immediately, and I went back upstairs. Feeling like a problem solver, like someone who'd done a favor, and waited. Within an hour I heard Gemma's frustrated voice. What the hell, now that network's gone too, and I stayed in my room quiet, didn't engage. Just listened to her spiral into confusion and anger, and the satisfaction was real, was deep, was the first time in months I'd felt like justice actually existed in the world. Her smug confidence from yesterday was completely gone, replaced by genuine panic about how she'd finish her assignments without reliable internet. The meltdown was spectacular. Gemma spent the next day alternating between passive-aggressive comments in the kitchen and actual complaints to Fiona and Hollis about how selfish people were during finals, how some people didn't understand community, how weird it was that only certain people seemed to have internet problems. And she never said my name, but everyone knew who she was talking about, knew she was circling around an accusation she couldn't quite make. And Fiona caught my eye. Once with this knowing look, this expression that said she'd figured out that I'd done something, and maybe even why, and I felt guilty for a second, guilty for creating tension. But then I remembered the internet bill, remembered the furniture money, remembered every small theft and lie that had brought us here, and the guilt evaporated, replaced by certainty that what I'd done was fair, was justified, was exactly what someone who'd been exploited for months had earned the right to do. She finally snapped on day 4, stormed into my room without knocking, face red with frustration and accusations ready. "Did you change the Wi-Fi password?" she demanded. "Is that why I can't connect? Did you lock me out?" And I stayed calm, looked right at her, and said the thing I'd been holding for weeks. "I know about the internet bill, and the room went completely silent. You could hear that silence, feel it pressing against walls, and I watched her face change. Watched panic replace anger, watched her scramble mentally for explanations. "What are you talking about?" she tried. But her voice was weak, unconvincing. "The bill is $45. I said clearly, "Not 100. You've been charging us 25 each and keeping 55. I saw the actual bill, and she just stood there, trapped, caught, unable to deny because the evidence existed, unable to explain because there was no innocent explanation, and I waited, gave her space to apologize, to take accountability, to show some remorse for stealing from people who'd trusted her. But the apology never came. Instead came minimization, came excuses, came reframing that made her the victim. "It's not that simple," she said. "I do extra work managing the account, and sometimes I pay bills you don't know about," and I just stared at her, amazed at the audacity, at the refusal to admit wrongdoing even when caught directly. "You lied," I said flatly. "You collected money under false pretenses. That's theft." And she got defensive. "That's dramatic. It's like $20, and I corrected her. $55 every month. For 3 months, that's over $150 you stole from us. And she rolled her eyes, actually rolled her eyes like I was being petty for caring about money I'd earned. And that confirmed everything. She wasn't sorry, wouldn't apologize, didn't think she'd done anything wrong. Thought she was entitled to our money just because she'd found a way to take it, and I realized conversation was pointless. She'd already decided she was justified, already created a story where she was the reasonable one and I was overreacting. So I just said, "Get out of my room," and she left still indignant. I finished finals in peace, actual peace, with fast internet and no guilt and complete focus on my work, studied for exams, wrote my papers, submitted everything on time, and it felt good, felt right, felt like I'd protected something important. Meanwhile, Gemma struggled. I heard her trying to borrow hotspots from people, heard her blaming everyone but herself for being unprepared, heard her stress reach levels that would have made me sympathetic a month ago but now just felt like natural consequences. Fiona and Hollis figured out what had happened, had their own conversations with Gemma about the money, decided they were moving out next semester, and the apartment that had been tense became openly hostile. But I didn't care. I'd already decided I was done, already started looking at other housing, already accepted that this friendship was over and that was okay. Some people aren't who you think they are. Some people will take advantage if you let them, and learning that lesson cost me some money and peace but taught me something valuable about boundaries and self-respect. Looking back, I realize I didn't scream or fight or create the dramatic confrontation she probably expected. I just stopped paying for lies, stopped enabling someone who saw my kindness as weakness, stopped sacrificing my own well-being to avoid conflict. And honestly, that was the most satisfying part. Not revenge but boundary setting, not punishment but natural consequences. Not drama but quiet firmness. She taught me that not everyone deserves your trust, that friendship doesn't mean accepting mistreatment, that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is protect your peace even if it costs you a relationship. So I want to ask you something. Have you ever had a roommate who took advantage? Have you ever discovered someone you trusted was stealing from you? What would you have done in my situation? Would you have confronted her immediately, or would you have done what I did and let her experience the consequences of her choices? Tell me in the comments. Because I want to know if I handled this right, if cutting off her internet during finals was too far or exactly what she deserved. Share this if you've ever been the accommodating roommate who finally learned to say no. And remember that being nice doesn't mean being a doormat, that protecting yourself isn't cruel, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop participating in your own exploitation. I learned that lesson in a shared apartment with unreliable Wi-Fi. And I came out stronger for it.